It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Geddes Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2023 winter edition of The Local Show. I'm your host, Tom Soccocio Jr., along with my friend and co-host today, Bob Holden-Betts, who's in for Steve Roberts, who conveniently had a quote-unquote business meeting, but it was down in Florida. So you wonder what's going on there. We'll get more to that throughout the show. The Local Show features conversations about local businesses. We talk about the business and how it got here in Syracuse, New York, why they do business right here in Syracuse, New York. We talk to the CFOs and the CEOs of businesses, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, business advocates, and other business-friendly organizations. Now, we often go into why they do business here, and that can be an interesting conversation. But what's even more interesting is the family lineage. Sometimes there's families that have been in business here, and people don't know that they're a family business. So you'll hear all about what they're doing now and what they might be doing in the future, and we'll talk about their successes, their challenges, opportunities, marketing, and advertising. We're broadcasting from the Zoey Advertising Studios, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. And we say a hearty, healthy good morning to my friend Bob Holden-Betts. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me today, Tom.
Well, thank you for pitching in. It was either you or there's a person who lives in a van down by the river. We were going to get him, but I said, why not Bob? So, Bob, let's give people a little bit of your background so they know who's talking in the background. Bob, we worked at Comfort Windows together for a while.
Yep.
And and then you've been a sales manager in various capacities for a long time.
Yeah, so currently at Underwriters Laboratories UL, global sales manager there, and then also have the small business on the side of Hobie Honey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hobie Honey, that's kind of your pet project. And, well, you're getting to that age where, sooner or later you could just be doing Hobie Honey, right?
We'll see.
Yeah. And writing Hallmark cards. Either way, that sounds like fun. Nothing's happening with bees right now, right?
No, they're in the hives trying to stay warm and huddled together.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How many hives do you have?
About 40 right now.
Wow, that's a lot. Do you sometimes walk around and feel with your chest puffed out and you go, hey, I own all these hives?
No, because it's about being a student. There's so many things to learn, and just when you think you got it figured out in one way, something else comes
gotcha.
along. So it's a learning process. You have to be a student.
One queen for all the hives, or
one queen per hive?
Oh, per hive.
Yep.
All right, that's nice. Okay, well, Bob will be with us throughout the entire show, and we do have an action-packed show for you. We'll talk with Joe Scrippa, owner of the Scrippa Group, and Dr. Nicole Anzalone stops by. She's the owner of Syracuse Hearing Solutions. Sarah Samil is the owner of the Curd Nerd, and she'll be by to talk about her business. Charlie Van Patten puts us to sleep. He's the owner of Mattress Makers. Luke Luckenheimer. Try and say that 10 times fast. Luke Lunkenheimer is the chairman of CNY Drives. Mike Rothman is the owner of Rothman Knives. And then Pastor Josh Lang of Redeemer Church will stop by for a conversation. And then Chris and Andrea DeVita are the owners of Salt City Bread. And we'll round out the show with them. Now we say good morning to Joe Scrippa. How are you, Joe?
Great, Tom. Yourself?
Good. Good to have you back in the studio.
Yeah.
Haven't seen you around the neighborhood much. You're not jogging anymore or anything?
No jogging these days.
I haven't seen a lot of people walking around the neighborhood. Yeah,
I've been seeing, I stop home sometimes throughout the day in my travels because I'm on the road all the time.
Right.
So I see a lot of midday activity.
That's good.
I have been seeing.
Well, maybe it's because I'm working down in my studio.
That's it. And I'm not working.
And you're upstairs. Of course, I do hear the dogs bark. They'll bark at anything. And it's just so annoying. And it's usually if I'm doing a voiceover on something, and then all hell breaks loose upstairs. So what is the Scrippa Group, and what have you been doing for the past 20 years of your life?
The Scrippa Group is a commercial and residential real estate brokerage. We also manage property for real estate owners. But I started out in residential real estate. A lot of people don't realize that. They think of me as the commercial guy.
Yeah.
But we do have this little wing of our business, which is residential.
Sure.
Which you know and understand.
Yes.
So I guess about maybe 7 years ago, Nikki Bronner joined our team, and she started in real estate with me. I was kind of one of her mentors.
Okay.
And Nikki's been doing this for probably right around 10 years. Now, I'm going to say she is definitely a master at it.
Wow.
Nikki came from owning her own karate studio. She's a master sensei black belt.
Really?
And that's how she
Cool.
That's how she practices real estate. With that type of intensity, integrity, respect, working for people. She's got a great teammate, Amber Perkins, who's got great real estate experience. In our office also, Katie Ware, who makes everything go round, residential and commercial. And our most recent addition, pretty well.
That's right. My wife. Yeah,
that's right,
yeah.
Kelly
is.
We are so excited about that. Yeah. And Kelly, as a banker, understands, in what I practice, which is primarily commercial real estate. Kelly understands as a banker confidentiality,
right?
Which in commercial real estate is so big, because sometimes we're working with people's estates or large value portfolios or things of that nature.
Right. And you knew Kelly actually before I knew you. You knew my wife through the bank.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. And banker extraordinaire. So we are just so excited to have her work with us, and I think Kelly will probably operate a little bit differently than some of the other residential folks. She has the ability to, practice over into commercial because of the banking experience.
Yeah, she's extremely excited.
But we sell a significant amount of homes, and I got to hand it to Nikki, because Nikki is the one that really makes it happen. Probably 80 to 100 homes a year, and she can handle every bit of it because she's got that drive
of her discipline.
Of her past life.
Well, hopefully Kelly will find great success there, and then I won't have to host the local show anymore. And Bob, you can host it with Steve. How's that? There you go. Well, anyway, so what else is going on up in Cicero, in our neck of the woods?
Well, let me tell you, the addition of Kelly, and actually we've added a couple of other people over the past year that I didn't mention. My son is getting licensed up.
Oh, great. No, I didn't know that.
He's been working with us.
How old is he?
He's 19 years old. Actually turns 19 this Sunday, Super Bowl.
Excellent. Okay, yeah.
Big game day.
That doesn't matter.
And we've got another young fellow that just graduated from Clarkson University, working with us. We have a finance department. A lot of people don't know we're small, but we actually are capable of.
Right. Well, you have a nice office up there in Brewerton.
Yep. But you ask about Cicero, it's Cicero to Clay to Baldwinsville, which is Micron, which is part of what we're ramping up for. So this past few weeks, I've had the opportunity to get with some real folks, and I say real folks, real developers that are doing projects up around, in Ohio right now, there's an Intel plant going on. And these guys are shifting right over here to Micron because they understand what's going on with Intel in Ohio. What I'll say is my confidence in the reality of this thing is here.
Okay.
And we're ramping up, and we intend to take Cicero, Clay, Baldwinsville, Brewerton, Central Square, and service the daylights out of them. We want to help our local people make the money that they've been waiting for.
So question for you, when Micron coming in, does that affect residential more than commercial, or commercial as well?
It's both. It's pretty equal, and it's pretty aggressive.
Excellent. Well, that's great. That's Joe Scrippa from the Scrippa Group, the owner of the Scrippa Group, scrippagroup.com. And we appreciate what you do, and thank you for stopping by the local show.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. All right, Bob, coming up next, we're going to talk with Dr. Nicole Anzalone. She might be able to look in your ears. You might, see if you got anything going on there. She's the owner of Syracuse Hearing Solutions. You're going to like that. It's all on the local show coming up next, right here on 570 WSYR. Stick around, folks.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Geddes Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in. You've got The Local Show on your radio or your digital device or whatever you're looking at these days, right? There's a lot of different devices out there. And we're also on YouTube. I don't know if you know that. So I'm glad that you dressed up and you're looking stealthy. You always look like an outdoorsman to me, Bob.
I am an outdoorsman. So I try to look the part.
Spend most of your time outdoors. I've been... it's funny, when the pandemic started, I was outside all the time. I don't know why. It was just one of those things like, really? They're not going to prevent me from being outside, right? I could be outside. And I was, and a lot of walks and all that. And then as things have gone on, I'm spending less time outside, more time inside, but I remodeled and have a studio and all that stuff down there, so I spent a lot of time in the studio.
Don't forget about your friend, the outdoors.
Yes.
It'll make you feel better and more well-connected.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of deer around your property?
We do.
We have an incredible amount. Yeah. Imagine if we were hunters, we could probably be. Can you shoot deer on your own property?
You can. I think I can't because I don't shoot deer, but I think I could.
Well, I'd like to give them a sporting chance, so I thought about wrestling them.
Okay.
So I told Nicholas, the boy, that we should get into wrestling the deer. And hey, if we pin him and all that stuff, then maybe we can have some venison.
Watch out for deer ticks.
Yeah, but then you got the ticks. Yeah, they got that mechanism built right in. Geddes Federal Savings and Loan has been a big proponent of the local show since the beginning. They are a local company. You can talk to local people when you call them. Oftentimes somebody will answer the phone and you won't have to go through a series of prompts that'll take you, like through a 1-800 number, and eventually you get to somebody, and they put you on hold forever. That doesn't happen at Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. So if you want anything local, from mortgages to a higher rate CD, which, the Fed raised rates a little more, so you can make a couple of bucks on a good CD over at Geddes Federal. Give them a call. Go to getitатgeddes.com. Getitатgeddes.com. Dr. Nicole Anzalone is a longtime proponent of the show as well. She's the owner of Syracuse Hearing Solutions and a doctor of audiology. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, Tom. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Good to
For
see
people that don't quite know you, what's your educational background? What do you have to do to be an audiologist?
So I have a 4-year bachelor's degree, and I actually have a master's degree in neuroscience, and then a 4-year doctorate in audiology.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Where'd you do all your schooling?
What did I do?
No, where?
Oh, where? A lot of studying.
Yeah.
I went to Syracuse University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do they have, if you look in the course book, does it say audiology path or
Yeah, it's actually not as well known. I mean, when you think of the health sciences, you think of maybe vision or dental. But audiology is in there too, and I studied sensory sciences, so all the eyes and ears and everything. And I was really interested in ears for some reason.
Did you know an audiologist ever before you decided that that's what you wanted to be?
Before my degree, no, actually. Before I worked on my master's degree, anyway, I really didn't know much about it, and I studied biology and psychology in my undergraduate degree. And it was interesting, like learning experimental psychology and how people perceive sound and vision and everything. And it's just so interesting.
It is.
So that's really how I got into it. And then I started working with cochlear implant patients. They were part of our research team and research subjects. And it was amazing to me how they went from not hearing anything at all to hearing again and hearing their families. And it's life-changing. Yeah. And that's what really got me passionate about it.
With all the new technology, has cochlear implants, have they become just, people can almost hear like a person who has good hearing can hear? It's closer? It's
closer. It's not exact to normal hearing, but they do have sound awareness. They can understand speech. It may take a little while. It's kind of like getting a new knee and learning to walk again. So they do have to go to, kind of like oral rehabilitation where they learn how to hear again and listen. Right. And it's interesting how their brain kind of makes sense of what they're hearing, even though it's different.
On a day-to-day basis, who comes into your office? What kind of people go to an audiologist's office?
We get people that want their ears cleaned. I know we were talking about that before. Yeah. We get people who have hearing difficulties understanding people, especially in noise. That's a really common complaint. Families complaining at them that they can't hear. We get people who have balance problems now. So we do test balance to see if it's ear related. So we do anything ear related. Also hearing protection. So we make our custom hearing protection in-house, which is great to be custom. Every ear is different, and those little earplugs that you get at the store sometimes just don't fit well. If they don't make a good seal, you're not going to have good protection. Right. So we do those as well.
When I woke up this morning, I grabbed the Q-tips and I went straight for my ear, and I thought, oh no, Dr. Anzalone's going to kill me for doing this.
That's a no.
I've been doing it wrong all these years. So what's the right way to do it?
Right on the box of the cotton swabs, there's a warning label that says "Do not stick in your ear." So if you look for it, you'll find it. Yeah. A good way to do it is to use eardrops. Just 2 drops in each ear at night before bed, maybe once a week. Keeps the wax soft so it could come out on its own. The ear's kind of like a self-cleaning oven in most cases.
Nice. It's funny because I think people feel like you got to get in there and you got to dig around and. Yeah, it's just not the case.
Yeah, although I was at a birthday party for my niece a few weeks ago, and somebody was talking about these videos on YouTube that they see people having their ears cleaned. And all of a sudden, all these other people at the party were like, I've seen that. And I'm amazed at how many people are aware.
Yeah, it's very popular. And ever since those videos started popping up, we've been getting a lot more people calling.
Do you post
it's like an ear spa day.
Do you post any videos at all?
We haven't yet, but I was thinking about it.
Oh my goodness. I would think that would be disgusting, but my son was into that popping pimples too. Yeah. That's another popular thing.
It's very satisfying, apparently. So I love removing earwax. It's fun for me.
Yeah. So tell us about that. When people come in and have their ears clean, what does that look like, and how much does that cost, and do you do anything else? Is it like a dental visit where come back in an X amount of months?
Yeah, we do that. It's not, it's just like a regular cost of a checkup. It's nothing too pricey at all. And we have many different ways to clean earwax too, depending on if it's soft wax or hard wax, and how difficult it is to remove. So just 5 seconds, we get it out comfortably, nice and easy. And
what's the thing with the candle and that's got to be nutty, isn't it?
That's another no-no.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that flame and why would people do that?
It's actually really dangerous, and it doesn't work. I mean, normally, people look at the candle or whatever's in the little dish or cup that they use afterwards, and it's really. Most of it's the wax from the candle itself that looks like it's coming out of your ear. I mean, scientifically, it doesn't really work, and it's dangerous. You could singe your eardrum, and then you have to get it grafted and have surgery to repair it. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So here's one question I have for you. My dad is hard of hearing progressively. How do I get him to come to you? What's the easiest
that's
way?
a tough question. Usually it takes a lot of talking by the family, just having that sit down talk with him and say, we're really concerned. We don't want you to miss out on anything, and it seems like you're missing out on a lot now. It's very important for their cognition too, to not, just forget about their hearing loss or just ignore it. So hearing loss should not be ignored, especially for long periods of time, because it starts to affect other aspects of your mental state. It causes depression, isolation, so on and so forth. So it's really important for your overall well-being to treat it right away. And I think showing them or teaching them that importance is important to them to know it's time to do something about it.
Load them in the car and bring them on over. That's right. Visit Dr. Nicole Anzalone right there, the owner of Syracuse Hearing Solutions, SyracuseHearingSolutions.com. Thank you so much for stopping by, Doctor.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Sarah Samil is coming up next. She's the owner of the Curd Nerd. Can't wait to hear what that's all about. Right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR. Stick around.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Gettys Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Well, you found it, the little golden nugget of the weekend, a place for conversation about local businesses and why people do business right here in Syracuse, New York. It's called The Local Show, started by Zoey Advertising about 4 years ago. Maybe could be going on year number 5. Steve is out. He said he had to go to some sort of a marketing seminar, but it happened to be in Florida. And he took his wife and a bathing suit. So I don't know how much working there'll be, but he'll be back later on this week. So I've got Bob Holden-Betts, who is the owner of Hobie Honey. Do you have a website?
I do. It is hobiehoney.com, HOBE honey.com.
Nice. And he is a part-time beekeeper, but he's been in the business for about 7 years. He's also a very accomplished global sales manager for UL.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes.
Global. Do you have a team like out in Bangladesh or somewhere?
No team in Bangladesh, Europe, and the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you probably have to be like on conference calls at all hours, various things like 2 o'clock in the morning.
I do, which gets in the way of having to do all the things with the bees
with
and
the
honey.
bees. Yeah, there you go. So Bob is with me as well, and you've got The Local Show. Now it's our pleasure to bring on someone new to the show. Her name is Sarah Samil, and she is the owner of the Curd Nerd. How are you today, Sarah?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. TheCurdNerd.com. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you from Syracuse? Did you grow up here? Or?
I am not from Syracuse. I did not grow up here.
Okay.
That's no hate on Syracuse. Love it here now.
Sure.
I am from Queens originally, so quite a bit different than up here. I moved up here 3 years ago, almost to the month now.
You don't have an accent. I have a friend of mine who's from Queens, and he always says, "Hey, let's go out to lunch. I want to get with ya."
I worked so hard to drop I actually went to Binghamton in college and got made fun of it for it a little bit when I first got there. All my roommates were actually from the Syracuse area.
I see.
And they pointed out my accent a lot, so I sort of learned to drop parts of it.
I would never know you were from Queens. So you're down in Queens, you're living your life, and then you came up here for college?
I actually came up here. My husband got a job up here in Syracuse in 2020. We bought our house and moved up here.
All right. So you still have a lot of family down in Queens?
My entire family. I'm actually one of the first of my family to ever leave Queens because it's not really something you do when you're from Queens. You don't really leave.
Yeah.
Although they come up here, this is turning out to be their second home.
Oh, yeah.
They're up here quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah, my parents are now talking about buying real estate down the block from me, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay.
So how long does it take to get from Queens?
It's about 4 hours, 4.5.
That's not bad at all, right? If you can handle the bridges, which I hate.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the part that's the worst.
Yeah, sometimes you get stuck on there. My daughter goes down to visit her boyfriend in Long Island, and he's in East Islip. So she goes over the GW and then takes the Throgs neck, and that's a big ordeal.
Yeah, and then Gotta go all the way to Islip.
Yeah, which is nuts. But anyway, so you're up here now. What's your husband do for a
My
living?
husband's an electrical engineer and now also a part-time cheesemonger.
Yeah, right, sure. So what is your company all about, and what do you do?
The Kurdnerd is a specialty grocer and cheese shop located right in Eastwood. We mostly do cut-to-order cheese sales, so we're one of the only ones in the area that do that, which means you can come in, pick a cheese, we'll sample it for you. You could get just as much or as little as you'd like, and we will tell you everything there is to know about that cheese.
Where in Eastwood?
I am located like directly in the center of Eastwood, pretty much right on the corner of North Collingwood and James Street, across from the Key Bank.
My cousin Vinny owns Stagnita Insurance. You know where Stagnita Insurance is? Yeah. So you're probably close to that.
Yeah, pretty close.
Why cheese? What got you into that?
This is a good story.
It is a pretty good story. I was at Binghamton University studying to pre-med. I have a degree in cell and molecular biology.
Oh, well, that explains it.
I was trying to go to medical school.
Yeah.
And this group of students started to try to get a cheese club started on campus. And I was like, club. I would love to be a part of that. And I thought it would just be a way to do something not related to my degree.
And take in a little more calcium.
Yeah, just like have a little fun after class and all that kind of stuff. And it sort of just spiraled from there. And I was like sitting in Cheese Club at a meeting one day, and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
No kidding.
Yeah, I realized I like cheese more than people. So
cheese are your favorite people. I get it.
Yeah. And then I called home, told my parents I was going to become a cheesemonger and not go to medical school.
Oh, that had to go over well.
It went over surprisingly better than you would think. They are probably my biggest supporters, but I do think there was like a little bit of an initial shock with that. And then I started working in Brooklyn as a cheesemonger. I trained under some other really cool cheesemongers down there.
Probably a lot of great cheese down there,
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the reason we opened the Kurdnerd was because I couldn't get a lot of that really great cheese from down there up here. And I was like, well, if no one's going to bring it in, I'll bring it in.
That's right. You know, I'm full Italian. A lot of people know that from the show, but you don't know that. So I love the sharp cheeses. I am really, the Romano cheese. And when I have a disc jockey company and we'll go play wedding receptions, and if they have like a big cheese buffet, I'll cut that sucker right off. And big chunks of blue cheese. I love blue cheese as well. So you get that do you get it from New York? Do you import it or do you make it yourself? Or
we actually do a little bit of all over importing. So we focus a lot on upstate New York. There's a ton of really amazing cheese coming right out of New York State.
The river rat cheese, I've had that up there.
River rat, and then also like the Finger Lakes are full of cheesemakers.
Finger Lakes,
actually, in between here and Utica, there's about 9 or 10
different
cheesemakers.
You would never know. I mean, I only know this because I frequent the Doctor of Cheese down in Eastwood.
Right. Oh my God. Do you have any honey cheese?
we actually do honey and cheese stuff quite often. Actually, on Friday, Bob and I are teaming up for a little honey and cheese pairing class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've done it before there too. It's been very successful, and because she knows so much about different cheeses, I'll just tell her the kinds of honey that we'll have there, infused honeys, and she'll match up perfectly. In fact, I did one espresso honey, and we did a salted espresso honey as partnership with Syracuse Salt Company. Yeah, and I'm just like, Sarah, taste this. We were doing a show together at Lock One Distillery in Phoenix, and I said, I just don't know what we could do with it. And she goes, she tastes it. She goes, put it on cheesecake.
No kidding.
And I was like, fantastic. So any pairing, whatever it is, I mean, all things cheesemonger. She is the doctor of cheese. You go down there, and here's the other thing I love about it. Is you go down there this time of year, the place is yellow. You walk in there, it's gray outside, it's cold. You walk into this place, it feels like you're walking into another world. It's bright, it's cheery, and there's so many different cheeses and so many different pairings that she has down there.
That's
very
wonderful.
unique things, and you could stop there once every week and taste something different all the time.
Incredible. When did charcuteries become popular? What is that?
Charcuterie actually...
Or charcuterie, yeah.
Yeah, charcuterie is actually only defined as cured meats.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. It was like a social media trend, probably 2019 is when it really got popular. And every cheesemonger in America was absolutely losing it because people were putting marshmallows on boards and calling it charcuterie. And we were like, oh, no. Charcuterie is actually just like prosciutto and salamis. it really has taken off. And now I try to do a lot of education about like what true charcuterie is and cheese and charcuterie boards and how to kind of plan those boards. We actually do classes a lot where we teach people how to put them together and kind of think about like why you put things on a board.
So really quickly, what is your website again?
thecurdnerd.com.
All right, and located exactly where?
We are located at 2800 James Street, 2800, or on the corner of South Collingwood and James Street.
And people can get to you online and order, and they can come in, and Bob is suggesting go in, see the brightly lit place. And do you do tasting? Can I come in and do a little
absolutely.
taste?
You could taste all of our cheeses every day.
All right, I'll be in later. It sounds great. Thank you so much, Sarah Samil, right there, the owner of The Curd Nerd, thecurdnerd.com. You have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Okay, coming up next, Charlie Van Patten from Mattress Makers, right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Gettys Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in. Thank you for spending quality time with Bob and I right here on The Local Show. Bob is not going to be a permanent fixture of the show, but he did take some time to fill in for Steve Roberts, who is out vacationing / working, something like that. He's down in Florida. We'll see if he catches a fish. He does like to throw a line in.
Yes, he does. But he's there for work, isn't he?
Supposed. Yeah. Supposed. Something to do with marketing and advertising. But, it's probably one of those very, cool seminars. And you probably are used to seminars like that where there's actual food and scones and things like that where you can hang out. But it's good to have you along, Bob. Bob and I worked together at Comfort Windows way back when, and we did some stuff there. And then you worked at your current place, which is UL, for Underwriters Laboratory. Yeah. What does Underwriters Laboratory actually do?
They do a ton of things, mostly testing, inspection, certification. So with Charlie here, they do mattresses. So we might do some of the flame retardant testing or make sure that it doesn't combust, or that it meets certain standards. So that's a big part of it. What I do is I work in the chemical segment. So we're selling software to chemical manufacturers to make sure that their chemicals are safe.
And do you have to have a union label or Underwriters union label?
You don't have
Underwriters
to,
Laboratory?
You don't have to, although UL owns a big part of the market share in that. They've been around for 135 years.
So it's almost like an oversight committee. It's like when you have that UL that proves that somebody else looked at your product and
tested it thoroughly.
Gotcha. I gotcha. So Charlie Van Patten's with us, owner of Mattress Makers, mattressmakerssyracuse.com, mattressmakerssyracuse.com. A couple of locations going on. How's the location up in Cicero doing? You'll be back up and working?
We're up and running, yes. Yeah. It's very good, yeah.
Excellent.
All we need to do is get a little more business, The economy is not good right now.
No, I know. But you know what? There's a lot of traffic up there. So let's do a challenge. We'll do the Local Show Challenge. If you're going down Route 11, you got to stop in to Charlie's. And for everyone who stops in, they'll talk with you. What do you think about that?
That's a deal. That's a deal.
Yeah, and then you can go to Chick-fil-A right across the street with no problem. Your other place, the factory, the actual place where you're making mattresses, is over off of Bridge Street.
Yeah, right on Bridge Street, behind Wilson's Jewelers. We're close to Erie Boulevard, Chimneys Plaza, that area right there. Yeah, not too hard to find.
No, easy to get to from all areas.
You have to look a little. The town's a little tight on signage. They don't like my picture out at the road.
They don't? You're kidding me.
No.
Oh, every time I go by, I say, well, there's Charlie. There's Charlie. And my family looks, and I'm like, no, he's on the sign over there. He's not walking around the road. But
exactly.
What will people find when they go over to the factory? What do people see with the sights and the sounds?
Oh, you'll be amazed. Where else can you go and buy a product and actually stand there and see it made, see the manufacturing equipment, see the guys working, see the raw materials, the business is tough. It's smoke and mirrors. Everything is, I've got the best. I mentioned one time, a couple of times ago, that this one company on the internet, we've got this fantastic way to attach our mattresses. We don't use glue, so no chemicals involved. We use this special wire. Guess what? That special wire is called a hog ring. We've been using it for 100 years. We buy 50,000 at a time. But, yep, they just invented it. Guess what?
Right.
I back at my shopping again. I was shopping last week, and I should give you guys some heads up on what you're going to get, because it's amazing out there what you have to listen to. I mean, I went in one store, and he showed me some different mattresses. I got one I kind of liked. Looks not bad. But that price is ridiculous. I'm not going to pay that. Well, in a sleep shop, you don't pay the price, even the sale price. Negotiate.
Oh, wow.
I mean, come to the factory and do better. But if you're in the sleep shop and you're going to buy there, make sure you negotiate. So he says, you know what? Let me make a phone call. This is the old trick in selling.
Yes, right.
Let me make a phone call. He comes back and he says, I just checked with the warehouse. He says, we've only got one left. He says, we got quite a few stores, so if you don't buy that today, it's probably going to be gone. And this is a phenomenal price. You really should think twice about buying it today. What the heck? You got a lot of stores and you got one mattress in your warehouse? Come on.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Give me a break.
Yeah.
I go to another store and, you know what? We've got free financing. No interest financing. So, we're set up for financing. We tell people up front what it is and what it costs. And I looked up on this particular company that finances, and I looked on the chart, and at 48 months, guess what? There's no interest, but there's a fee, 17.75%. You are paying for that free interest, 17.75%. Come on, give me a break.
People don't know that. And when you get a mattress made at mattress makers, not only do you get all of the good quality materials and have it custom made, but and when it's done, it's shipped right to you. So it's not like it's sitting in plastic for weeks, could be months, could be a half year. You're getting it right away, and you're paying just about half as you would a big box store or a sleep store or whatever. Do you have any burning questions to ask Charlie? Because you've never, interfaced with Charlie
I've never
before.
met Charlie, so this has been great. So here's a question I have for you. How has the mattress business changed in the past 5 years, besides the sales techniques and all of those things? The construction of a mattress, has it changed really in the past 5 years?
Well, I'll tell you something. We make one model. It's called an archetype. It's the same mattress we've been making since 1915. It's an inner spring unit, 20 pounds of cotton, wool, a 10-ounce organic cover, tufted, and the thing will last forever. We had one come back after 40 years. Just unbelievable. But generally speaking, the industry has gone fluff. They've gone to one-sided because they can cut their costs by a third. And one of my competitors said, I said, why are you doing one-sided? He said, well, because we get the customer back twice as often as you.
Of course.
We're here to sell. We're here to sell mattresses. Yeah. It's just crazy world out there.
Sure. So you actually source all of your materials. Some local?
Oh, the majority of our sources is local. I mean, as far as organic cotton in Little Falls, is organic wool down at Castleton on the Hudson, just outside of Albany. Lumber from the Mennonites down in Penn Yan. I mean, we really are local. And it gives us a tremendous edge because in manufacturing textbook, typically there are things, raw material is supposed to be 55%, and this is supposed to be this and that. And, when you source raw materials, your freight is supposed to be around 10%. I'm lucky to have a 3% freight cost because we are so local.
Right. And
that goes right into reducing the price.
Yeah.
You're saving money every which way with us.
Is there a seasonality to when people buy mattresses? Do more people buy mattresses in the winter or spring, summer?
Oh, yeah. It's a very seasonal business. You go through the winter, it's Christmas time. You don't want to be tearing the house up and getting started. And back in 1915, mattress factories closed in the winter.
Oh, no kidding.
And we came to Syracuse and bought a rug company. Mm-hmm. Used to go down to Lowe's Theater, pick up the rugs and clean them. And this unemployed mattress maker says, well, you're cleaning all the rugs on James Street. Why aren't you renovating their mattresses? Which was typical then. You didn't buy new mattresses. You brought them back, fluff them up, and make them new. Wow. And we said, oh, that's how we got in the mattress business. Because of the seasonality.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Charlie Van Patten right there, owner of Mattress Makers, mattressmakersyracuse.com. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great rest of the day, okay?
You too. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Kicking off hour number 2 of the local show, we're going to have conversations with Luke Lunkenheimer. He's the chairman of CNY Drives. Mike Rothman is the owner of Rothman Knives. And then Josh Lang is a pastor at Redeemer Church. He'll stop by. And then we have Chris and Andrea DeVita, the owners of Salt City Bread, all in hour number 2. Stick around. Hour number 2 of the local show starts really soon.
It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in. This is hour number 2 of the local show. Get ready for some engaging interviews with Luke Lunkenheimer. He's the chairman of CNY Drives, and Mike Rothman stops by. He's the owner of Rothman Knives, made locally right here. And Josh Lang is a pastor at Redeemer Church, the Syracuse campus. And then we'll talk with Chris and Andrea DeVita. They're the owners of Salt City Bread, all on this hour of the local show. We're broadcasting from the Zoey Advertising Studio, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. We're also on YouTube, so you can actually see clips of the show on YouTube and all the other stuff that Zoey puts up there. So go ahead and like the page and follow the page, and you'll be able to go far with that. Right now, it's great to bring back a guest we had on not too long ago, Luke Lunkenheimer. He's the chairman of CNY Drives. How are you doing today, Luke?
I am always spectacular, brother, and very glad to be back.
That's good to have you. So, you know what? Last time, I had said to my wife, I said, oh, you got to see this Luke Lunkenheimer interview. He's great. I've known your father for probably 30 years, John Lunkenheimer, who's been in the car business for probably 50 years. Right?
Yeah, probably right about that.
Yeah, which is awesome. And I said to my wife, oh, you got to see Luke. He's all jacked up too and everything. And she goes, I can't tell. So now for our YouTube people, can you give us a double bicep shot?
We can give you a front double.
Yeah, look at that. See? Now everybody can see that he is jacked up and he's been lifting. Now tell people, give a little background of how you got into CNY Drives, what you did before that, and how you got all jacked up.
I hope you got quite a hard drive, because that's a colorful tale. So, I grew up in Cato, New York, so I was kind of big frog, small pond, played for the football team, had visions of grandeur. I wanted to go play college ball and stuff like that. But eventually, as life goes on and you realize in a graduating class of 82 kids that there's a heck of a lot more talent out there than you thought, than Section 3 Class C provides. Yeah. I got an injury, wasn't able to pursue that dream. And I began selling cars. It was the family business, and I decided to try my hand at it. Did the old, I'm going to take a year off and reassess. So started selling cars. It was at a Ford dealership, a local Ford store here. Did very well. But along the way, I decided to get surgery on the shoulder to see if I could, have any shot at playing ball ever again. Right. Surgery didn't go great. Ended up getting dependent on painkillers. And then over the course of time, that developed into a pretty bad addiction. And it goes to a real dark place. There's probably a good solid decade of real bad drug usage, and always was a worker, always got up and went to work, always worked hard, always was in sales, which having the ability to sell is what provided me the ability to afford the habit. Yeah. But just like addiction with anybody, it kind of goes to a dark place, eventually. There's no real, without serious intervention. You got caught up in it. Yeah, it goes, it gets away from you a lot quicker than you realize. Mm-hmm. So, to the listeners now listening to this, they're like, wow, that took a turn pretty quick, right? But it's important to tell that part of the story because it helps you to understand how I got here. So along that journey, there was people that, witnessed the kind of the downward trajectory and the sad and the defeat. But moving forward, I actually got into some trouble, robbed a bank, okay?
Oh, is that all?
That's all.
Yeah,
Not
okay,
a big
good.
deal. Just knocked over a couple 7-Elevens and hit a bank. It was just all in a week's work. But I ended up spending some time in prison, a couple of years. And when I spent that time in prison, when you're alone in a 6x8 cell with a bunch of people that you wouldn't necessarily call your best friend.
Now, was it a real prison, like Rikers Island prison, or
Elmira Supermax Correctional Facility?
Wow,
yeah, it was.
okay.
I did get a small blessing towards the end. They actually forgot about me, so I got caught. You say to yourself, how does that happen?
Yeah,
right?
how does that happen?
Well, they essentially, when you get locked up, you get a number, and that's who you become, and then you're a number on a list, and then they sort through who's come in at what time, and how long are they sentenced for, what is the nature of their crime, and based on those things, they send you to facilities, whether it's medium, max, supermax, so on and so forth. So, given the fact that I was a drug addict, first-time felon with a non-violent felony, you would think that I would go to a nice cream puff place and be able to wear a white shirt and play tennis, and no, it wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. They actually forgot about me in reception. So somehow, usually you're supposed to go in there and spend a couple weeks in the reception. Yeah. You get viewed to see if you're a flight risk or an escape risk or suicidal or anything like that, and then they send you along your way. Well, about 5 months into the reception process, I was out in the yard lifting weights with a group of guys, and they're like, man, haven't you kind of been here a while? I said, yeah, it feels like it. So long story short, I ended up in Elmira for almost an entire year, which is a supermax correctional facility where the hardened criminals and the baddest of the bad go. But I was in the reception, so that's a 23-hour-a-day lock-in, 1 hour out of your cell per day. And this was all done by mistake, okay? Now, there's no recourse on the correction system, of course, for something like this, because when you're in the system, you're in there. But so one day a guy says to me, he goes, you're a non-violent felon. This is your first felony. It's drug-related. He goes, why don't you request shock? And I said, well, what's shock? And it was, I'd heard about it, but I didn't know what it was. And it was a paramilitary boot camp where if you agree to go into this program, you become essentially the property of the drill instructor and the team of drill instructors it was in Mariah, New York. It was way up on the Vermont border. And it was, I remember days it was negative 20 degrees outside, running 5 miles.
And how old were you at this time?
It was probably, it's about 30. So it's about a decade ago. So I was about 30 years old. I spent my 30th birthday in prison, and then I was able to get out shortly after that. I do remember that. So probably 28 to 30 would be that time span. So I went to the prison counselor, and I was telling her that I had heard about this shock camp, and what's the deal here? And she's looking through my paperwork, and she kind of chuckles. And I go, what? She goes, well, when you go to shock camp, it's a 6-month program, and if you complete it successfully, you can go home. And I'm like, okay. She goes, unfortunately, though, you've already been in here X amount of time. So if you go to this shock camp, it's really only going to cut off 17 days from your sentence. Yeah, right. So she says, well, why don't you just, we'll send you to a medium. You can cook, eat, get packages, watch some TV. And I said, no, ma'am. You said I could go home 17 days early? She said, yeah. I said, give me that shock camp. Every day is precious. So I went and spent 6 months in a paramilitary boot camp running 5-10 miles a day, PT, push-ups, getting screamed at.
Yeah. Some people pay for that.
Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
So that was a choice that I made at the time because that wasn't the life for me. You get put in a place like that, and I cherish every moment of it. People, I say that to people, and they're like, "You're out of your mind, man. What could you enjoy about that?" Yeah. And I said, I didn't say enjoy. I said I cherished. Okay, which means you take the memory, you hold it close to your chest, and you remember that's a place you never ever want to go again. Okay. Right. So I got out of the shock camp. Actually, broke my leg, broke my femur while I was in there. Yep. Wow. And finished the what's called the captain's run, which is like a 10-mile run with a broken femur. Little pat on the back there in case you didn't notice. They took it a little easy on me because I still chose to finish. But anyways, so I said long story short about 4 times, so we're going to have to scratch that. But I got out of shock camp, and then I went back into the workforce. And I was fired from a job very quickly because they found out I was a felon, even though I disclosed it on my job application. Sure. Gentleman reached out to me that I'd sold cars with in the past, asked me if I was interested in running a dealership with him as a partnership because he knew my skills and talent in the car business were honed. Right. So I did that for about 11 months, took his business from a very small Winnebago trailer on a gravel lot in Scriba to a lot in Fulton with probably 40 cars, a $250,000 line of credit, and a good income for the both of us. Yeah. And then he robbed me because he was a drug addict. So I got reintroduced to that whole nefarious activity me of the drug addict. So then I went back to work for a gentleman who's a real kind soul, local business owner, and he gave me an old job that I had originally been fired from by him for the drug usage back. He reached out to me and he said, listen, you need good, steady employment. I know you're better now. I'll give you the job. Worked there for 60 days. After 60 days, he came to me and offered to invest for me to open up CNY Drives because he knew that was a dream of mine. Last thing I ever expected that day. But and there's, of course, I could be more colorful with the description of how that came to fruition, but obviously we're limited on time.
Oh, my goodness.
He entered in with an investment. We opened the company, and here we are 4 stores later and 6 years. And
CNY Drives. Yeah. CNYDrives.com. Isn't that something? Yeah. We could keep you on forever, and we're going to have you back for sure. Just really quickly, because we're counting down here, but in 10 seconds or so, tell people about your podcast and where they might find that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. A little plug for Man of the Free.
Sure.
So I chose to kind of bring my story to light and try to help people. So we've created a YouTube channel and a podcast. It's called Man of the Free, Freedom of Mind, Money, and Media. And it's they can find it on YouTube. The YouTube handle is Luke Lunk, Lukelunk. And it's just getting started. There's going to be some bumps and fumbles, but we got some pretty good production staff. We got, the best of the best equipment, and, we'll see how bad I screw it up.
Excellent. Luke Lunkenheimer right there, chairman of CNY Drives, CNYDrives.com. Thank you so much. We'll definitely have you back again.
Appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure.
Next up, a local guy who makes knives. I didn't know you could make them here locally. Mike Rothman, that's right, owner of Rothman Knives, here on the local show on 570 WSYR.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Gettys Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back to The Local Show, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you along on this weekend that, I know you got better things to do, but you spend time here with Steve and I. And what makes this weekend even more special is that Steve's not here. And we have Bob Holden-Betts, an old friend of mine, who has decided to come on and kind of fill in for Steve. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, it's been great.
You having fun so far?
I am.
Good. It's not as exciting as beekeeping. He is a beekeeper on the side and has been for about 7 years. How much do you get stung? Have you gotten stung a lot?
Usually, when I first was a beekeeper, I took a beginner beekeeping class.
Yeah.
And the guy from Kentucky came up that taught it, and he said 2 things about being a beekeeper. One is your bees are going to die, and number 2, you're going to get stung. And it's true. It's probably, I'd say, 6 or 7 times a year a season, which isn't so bad, but it's...
So you can't be allergic to bees if you're going to be a beekeeper.
Correct. You shouldn't be.
You shouldn't be. Probably safer that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Really quickly, can you tell people what's coming up with you and the girl we had on earlier, the Curd Nerd?
Yeah, so we're doing a special honey cheese pairing there. This is our second event there in Eastwood. And so we bring in different infused flavored honeys and different honeys that we have. And she, being the doctor of cheese, she pairs them up perfectly with different cheeses there.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. Well, if you need to cut the cheese, this next guest is going to be interesting for you and for all of people listening. His name is Mike Rothman, and he's the owner of Rothman Knives, RothmanKnives.com. How are you there, Mike?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good, my friend. Are you from Syracuse? Is this your native town?
I am from Manlius.
Okay, Manlius. Oh, beautiful downtown Manlius, yes. That's good. And you were born and raised there?
Yep.
Very nice. Did you go to FM?
Yes, I went to FM.
Okay, that's good. And it turns out, I didn't know this. I saw you talking to our guy, Brad, who is our photography specialist and does a lot of the video editing and runs the video portion of this show and all that. You guys went to school together?
Yes.
So he did go to school.
Believe it or not, yes, he did.
I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't lying to me or anything. So, Mike, what's your background? What did you do before making knives?
So, my background is I've been welding and fab for 17 years. So that's my background.
Yeah. So when you say welding and fab, you build race cars, or what'd you weld for?
A lot of it's been industrial stuff. Like I've worked for Braun doing industrial washing machines. I've worked for Filter Tech, which is where I currently work. They build liquid filtration systems.
Okay. all that stuff. Now, when you say welding, I know just enough to be dangerous. Are you welding like MIG and TIG and all? What are the above. All of them, huh? Okay. And that's a specialized art. Do you do any underwater welding? No.
And I have no desire to.
Where did you get your training for welding?
I went to SUNY Delhi.
Okay.
It's out in Delhi, New York.
Yeah. So after graduating from FM, you went down there?
Yep.
And what made you be interested in welding and fabrication?
I always was one of those Lego kids, like building things. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And it just seemed right.
Yeah. Was there anybody that influenced you when you were younger?
Probably my father the most.
Okay. And he's a welder?
No, he built street rods for a living.
Oh, okay.
So really?
He was into the car thing.
Did he ever race up to ESTA?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe because I raced up there when I was younger. What kind of street rods? Like, where did they race? Or did he have his own street rod, or did people hire him?
So he owned a shop doing this.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So,
yeah, you learned from the best then, because those things have to hold together. Believe it or not, you know. You can't have a street rod. So tell us about the knife company. So the only local knife company I ever knew was Camillus Knife, right? Yeah. And now they're gone. So Rothman took over?
No.
No, you're not making that many knives.
Everything is 100% custom built by hand, by order.
Okay.
So there's no mass production.
Yeah.
It's typically one knife a week is what you get out of me.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. That's something. Yep. So when you say you make the knife, you're actually making the blade? Oh, you got some
maybe
stuff?
Maybe you should hand some stuff over.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that, huh?
So here's this.
That one is not sharp, so you can't hurt yourself on that one. That one's in my pocket, so that one is.
Okay. Well, so he brought dull ones in because he thought Steve might be here, because Steve could hurt himself with these blades. Okay, wow.
So kid safe.
So the first thing I notice is it's got a really good weight to it.
Yes,
really
very weighty.
Weight. And the blade, not only is it sharp, but it's got some more design than normal on there.
Right. That one's stainless Damascus.
Okay.
Damascus meaning?
Multiple materials mixed together. Shows a pattern when you etch it.
Right. Okay.
Those are just stainless.
I see. Wow. What I've never, felt a good quality knife, because I would usually just buy one over to Walmart or something like that. Yeah. This is incredible. So, folks, you got to really check this out on our YouTube channel. Go to Zoey Advertising, and so you can get a good look at these things as well. It's one thing to hear us talk about it, but now this one that I'm holding has kind of a blunt edge to it, so it's not like a pointy part. Now, what kind of blade is that used for?
It's called a spade blade.
Spade blade. And what's that used for?
Typically like skinning and stuff, so that you don't have a sharp edge to pierce through something.
Okay, you're right. So if I started eating squirrels again, this is what I would use to skin the squirrel.
Sure.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So when somebody wants to order a custom knife, do you basically say, okay, here's how I do custom? The blade, what do you want the length to be, the use to be, the handle? I mean, how does all the customization come together?
Typically, so if you go on my website, there's a few patterns, like outline of pattern, like the handle pattern.
Okay.
And they basically can pick any of the ones that I have. And most times if you ask and I don't have a pattern, I'll go look for it.
Okay.
So that you can order your pattern, then your blade type, single blade, multi-blade, 3-blade, whatever, and then your handle material and your upper or lower bolsters, which are those stainless parts you see.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you only do upper bolsters depending on what somebody wants, or you can do double bolsters, which is top and bottom.
Gotcha. And with your blades, many jackknife type knives that I've had in the past go dull. You maybe whittle a little bit and then they go dull. Are your blades better? Will they stay sharper longer?
A lot of the material I use is harder than most production items.
Gotcha.
And even if they do get dull, I offer as a perk that goes with the price, mail it back to me, I'll sharpen it and send it back.
Okay. What was that called? Mallet?
I'll just mail it back.
Oh, mail it back. I thought it was a special
return.
Sharpening. Yes, I gotcha. What are the handles made out of?
Yeah, this handle
So
looks
those
very
are both stag.
Okay.
This one's sandbar stag. That one's red stag.
Stag what? What do you mean stag? A deer?
Antler horn.
Antlers,
Antlers.
really? Do you have to go kill the antler or kill the deer?
No.
So do you make this part as well, or you order that?
I order that material, and then I shape it to fit.
Okay.
Now, why is antler used? Is it a harder material than like a wood handle or?
Okay, so it traditionally, these are called traditional pocket knives, so that you understand. Typically, originally, that was the most durable material that you could get. Because, I mean, they bounce off of everything in the wild, so nothing you're going to submit it to is going to phase it.
Wow, that's incredible.
But I also do wood handles also, synthetic materials, any of the above.
So if you're a sportsman or even a hobbyist or a collector, you'd be the guy to call. Mike Rothman right there. He's the owner of Rothman Knives, and you can go online at rothmanknives.com. Do you have a store that people can walk into?
Nope.
So it's mainly mail order, right?
Mail order, phone calls.
Phone calls, okay. Give them a conversation, have a conversation with them. Thank you so much, Mike, and that's awesome that you're a craftsman like that. I'm glad to know that there's people out there doing what you do. That's excellent. All right, you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Josh Lang, the pastor of Redeemer Church, the Syracuse campus, is coming up next right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Back into it and back at it again. Thank you for joining The Local Show with Tom and Steve. But we do have a guest host today, and his name is Bob Holden-Betts, because Steve took his bathing suit and his fishing pole, and as a last resort took his wife down to Florida, something about a conference on what I don't know. Seashells.
The nerve.
Have you been to Florida, Bob?
I have been to Florida a couple times.
What parts of Florida have you gone to?
I've been to St. Augustine. I've been to Tampa. I've been to Sanibel Island, which was really nice.
I went to Sanibel and Captiva.
Oh, very nice.
Now, you would think with my fear of flying and bridges, I don't know what it was, but when we went there, it didn't bother me.
Yeah, it's a great place. Great spot.
I really enjoyed it. My wife had a little incident in the water in Sanibel because the water, it was pretty tumultuous, and she was standing there, and it knocked her right over, and there's all those little tiny seashells. They're like little shards of glass, and it got both her knees. It was terrible. My brother-in-law was standing right near her, and he scooped her right up, and I felt so bad for her. We were enjoying how beautiful it was, and all of a sudden she went bloop into the water, and that was it.
Oh, my. So, glad to hear she's okay.
Yes, yeah. It is a beautiful little area over there. Of course, I think the bridge that we went on to go over to Captiva or something got washed out during that storm.
Hurricane,
yeah. So anyway, that's that. Hopefully there will be no bad weather for Steve, and he'll come back just fine. Right now we're going to talk with Pastor Josh Lang from Redeemer Church, the Syracuse campus here in Syracuse. How are you there, Josh?
I'm doing well, Tom. Thanks for having me on again.
It's good to see you. I don't know if we've had you on since Christmas, right? I think it was.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Christmas.
I was starting to get nervous that you guys, I did something wrong or you didn't like me here. So
not at all.
Or you got too many viewer complaints.
Not at all. So, Josh, you've been in this business for a while.
Yeah. It'll be 23 years.
Goodness.
I think this year, 23rd year, yeah.
And how did you start off, leading, because this is would they call this a vocation? This is like you've dedicated your whole life to it. So being a pastor, how'd you start?
Well, in growing up in the church, my mother was very aware of my siblings and I, and making sure that we were connected in some way. So actually from an early age, she had me on the back of a camera, running camera for our TV show and different things like that. And through the years, it just progressed with the different things that I was doing.
Yeah.
So
why is it important to have a connection to Jesus?
Well, first and foremost, there's some big questions that we have in life, aren't there? Why am I here? What does it mean? Is there any kind of meaning to maybe the pain and the suffering that I'm going through. And the brilliant thing about Christianity is that it's able to help you with those hard questions of life. And so when you come down to, for example, something like meaning, we can go immediately to, Genesis 1:27, where it says that we were created in the image of God, and every single person, regardless of your color or your height, your size, your height, where you grew up, where you didn't grow up, has inherent value and worth because they were created in the image of God, the big questions of like pain and suffering. Does it matter? Is there meaning to it? And Christianity tells us that, there is something more to this life than what we're currently breathing in, and that the hope and the promise is that when Christ comes again, he is going to restore and make all things new.
Excellent. Now, Bob, you have 4 children, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I first met you, you didn't have a TV for the kids.
Yeah.
Now, how did that relate to your faith? Or didn't it?
How did it relate to our faith? So I guess the core of not having the television was to make sure that we spent time interrelated, all of us. So that was a big thing. Also, being outdoors, connection there.
Yep.
And we didn't really want this part coming in and kind of maybe changing the way that we were thinking about different things. And my wife and I, Tristan and I, really thought that we remembered growing up a lot, and when we were younger, just left for hours in front of a TV.
Yeah.
And we wanted some more interaction that way. So that was a big thing. Although I do feel like our kids sometimes were, I remember oldest son was in school and somebody found out that we didn't have a TV.
Yeah.
And so, they made fun of him. They said that he's Amish.
Oh.
And ironically, it was like junior high, and he comes home and he says, today somebody writes on the board that Peter is Amish. Of course, they spelled Amish O-M-I-S-H. So the joke was on them a little bit.
Right.
But, you do get, because you're not fitting the standard of what everybody is doing or should be doing. So we do have a TV now, to watch movies and things like that.
Sure.
But there was a decision we made, and I think a lot of it was just based on that we were going to be the major influencers, and that we wanted to spend time together as a family.
And you brought the kids up in an evangelical Christian type community, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you always evangelical Christian?
No. I never stepped foot in a church. I actually was invited to go to a Billy Graham crusade at Knickerbocker Arena in Albany. I had no idea who Billy Graham was.
Wow.
And my uncle just said, "Hey, we're going to a Billy Graham crusade tonight. Do you want to come?" And I was like, it's like saying, "Hey, Steve Smith is right around the corner. You want to go?" And I'm like, I have no idea. So it was the first time I ever heard anything about the gospel. And in his Billy Graham voice, he said, the Bible says you're either for him or against him. And you need to make a stand and decision today. And to me, I looked around and thought, I've never heard this before. And I just said, but this seems like a free pass. Like, why wouldn't I? I felt drawn at that time. And I remember, I didn't always go to church because I was young when this happened. I was 15 years old when this happened. And I didn't really plug into a church. I didn't have anybody around me. My family or nobody around me was a believer at that point. So I just remember reading the Gospel of John and Proverbs every day through college.
Wow.
A proverb a day. If it was the first day of the month, I read Proverbs 1, and I just went through them. Yeah.
Very nice. Do you find that people come to your church, Josh, the same way? Are their eyes open, or are they already saved and Christian when they come?
Well, it's probably a spectrum. And so you have folks who, might have been kind of what we might call de-churched for any variety of type reasons. Right. And maybe a circumstance in life says, I need to get back to this. And so, that happened a little bit with COVID. Folks were de-churched a bit. And then what happens is we've been emerging from it. They're like, I'm going to start looking for a church. Another one that happens quite a bit is maybe a kid grew up in church into their college and 20s. They didn't go for a while, and now they start having their own kids. And your own kids start to you start thinking I don't want to mess this one up, And so now it's like, I better go to church. That's what mom and dad did. And then you do have some genuine seekers who, people who are coming and they might be atheist, agnostic. They might not even know what they are, but there was just something interesting that drew them in.
That's interesting. Where's the church located, Redeemer?
Well, Steve always encourages me to say directly across from Nottingham High School, 3217 East Genesee Street.
Yeah, kind of easy to get to and all that. How do you take care of your own family? You've got a whole church family you have to take care of. Then you have your own personal family.
Well, the great thing about it is we do have generations of my wife and I's family in the same church.
Okay. Nice.
So that's helpful. And then there's people in church that, which I think is a real attractive thing about Christianity, who I've just grown up with. So I can think of one family who, my kids, call aunt and uncle, who aren't by relation aunt and uncle, but because I grew up with them and their parents were sort of like my grandparents, my kids have been adopted in. And so we're all kind of doing life together.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And I'm hoping that you'll take into consideration some marketing advice I had given you, and that is to have a big poster of Steve so that when people come in and say, we even accept him, so that people are very comfortable coming to Redeemer with no problem.
I'll make sure he takes the Zoey hat off, though.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want that. So thank you so much, Josh, for being here. You're always a pleasure to talk with, and we'll see if we can't get some more people to get over to Redeemer.
Hey, well, thank you, Tom. Great. Thank you, Bob, for having me.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Josh.
All right, coming up next, who do we have? We're going to talk about bread, Salt City Bread, right?
That's right.
They're going to be coming, and you know them.
I do.
It's like we planned this. They'll be coming up next on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this fine weekend. A kind of mild weekend, actually. I'm happy that it's been a mild winter. Now, of course, if we were down in Buffalo, we probably wouldn't be saying that, right?
This is very true.
They're like, what's mild about this? It's incredible that they had so much. You know what I thought about? And you know, because you've known me, Bob, for quite some time. When they had all that snow, I used to date a girl back, 100 years ago who lived on Grand Island. Now, back then, by Buffalo, right. And I had no problem going over the Grand Island Bridge. Nowadays, I'm freaked out by that, but I thought, who would go over that bridge during that horrendous snowstorm?
Yeah.
They had to shut that sucker right down.
Absolutely, yep.
You have no fear of that because you're a mountain climber. You're like a goat. I'm going to call you the goat.
The goat.
From now on. That's wonderful. Hey, we have some special guests with us today. It's Chris and Andrea DeVita, and they're the owners of Salt City Bread. I'm happy to be introduced to you guys. How are you?
Thank you. Good.
Thank you. Good.
Great.
Doing great.
You guys can get right in on those mics. Don't be afraid of them. Yeah. That was wonderful. Are you both from Syracuse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the history. We'll let the girls go first. So, Andrea, go ahead.
The history of myself or the bread?
No, well, the history of you. Yeah, like, how did you meet him? And
okay.
You're a native. What high school did you go to?
Nottingham.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and he went to Henniger.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting mix.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
We crossed the tracks.
No kidding. That's something else.
Yeah.
So what part of town did you grow up in?
East Side.
So you're east side.
Near Nottingham.
Right.
Yep, and we met on the same street, Woodbine Ave in Eastwood.
Right, okay.
And that's how it all started for us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And how long have you been married?
8 years now.
Okay. Do you have children?
We do. We have 4.
4?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. All from her? Yeah. Well,
75%.
Yeah, right. You look wonderful. Watching my wife go through the 3 kids, it was like, golly, I don't know that I'm strong enough to be able to do that. It was hard enough just being dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's exhausting being dad.
Yeah,
Let alone being mom.
Absolutely. So you guys, what did you do professionally, Chris, before you started the bread company?
Sure. Well, I did a few things. I I worked for the Department of Public Works for about 10 years or so.
Gotcha.
And then I got into the safety and health field. I did like training and all sorts of really fun stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
Like that whole, occupational safety and health thing.
Yes.
But we started doing this, and it was more fun, more rewarding. I should say.
Sure. What did you do before this?
Oh, I worked at Upstate for 10 years.
Oh, no kidding.
So,
Any particular
neurosurgery, cancer center, and then the pharmacy.
Were you a doctor? Or are you a doctor?
I worked with insurance companies. So
okay.
anything that needed authorizations for, say, the infusions or medications, I did that.
Okay, that's what you did.
So with both the backgrounds, it only makes sense that they
we went into bread. I know.
Once you go into bread, my goodness. Well, it's interesting because in a world that has labeled carbs the enemy, and then of course gluten is the spawn of Satan, and all that, and we know this. How do you make bread appealing to people, and are people buying it?
Oh, sure. There's lots of people that have no problem eating carbs, and we encourage it.
Yes.
So,
well, it gives you energy,
and
right?
It's a judge-free zone in our bakery. So you come in, you don't have to worry about feeling bad about eating the carbs.
Right. Oh, good. Yeah.
But since our bread is made with sourdough and homegrown wheat from Cazenovia,
yes.
It just digests easier and better. And people who have gluten sensitivities or problems digesting wheat or bread or carbs, they can do it with our bread. It's really amazing. Awesome. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And did you guys have to go to any special courses, take a webinar, read a book, or something to get going on this?
No.
Or was it just your Italian roots that
I think it was probably that. No, we had no special trainings or anything like that. We just started doing it in our house, and we would bake bread for family and just for each other. And, my wife, she bakes cakes and all sorts of crazy kind of cookies and stuff, and it's just something that we always did on a small scale. And then we just said, you know what, we'll just try something else. We'll try it on a bigger level, and that's
There's a lot of growth that happened with this, and it took a while for it to evolve to what it is now. A lot of passion, a lot of time went into this.
When did you start? How long has it been?
Baking bread?
Baking the bread. Yes,
probably, it was 23 now. Probably about 6 years ago.
Okay, so you've been operating 6 years. That's good. You made it past the 5 years.
No, we've only been operating for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Just started baking bread 6 years ago.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, then you still have time to fail, so that's good. Good to know. No, I'm sure you'll do just fine. So, explain all the products you have now. For those of you who watch us on YouTube, and I hope there's lots of you, we do have some bread here. I'm going to hold up some, and it's just so I don't want to get my hands all over it. But
look at that. That is my favorite focaccia bread. That's why I drive from Baldwinsville to Manlius for that exact thing right there with the Syracuse salt on top, the rosemary.
Absolutely. And look at this chocolate chip cookie. It's like chocolate chip cookies you've infused with steroids.
Wow.
That is wonderful.
It's part of the secret.
It has sourdough in it, so it has our starter in it. Yeah.
Look at this half moon cookie over here.
Now that's a half moon.
Yeah.
That is a half moon.
Because I've noticed they've become 50-cent pieces in some of the stores.
It's funny that you said it, because we were just saying this morning, this is how I remember them.
That's what I remember.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember them like this.
Jeez, that's something else. So, name all the products you have. Go ahead. This is your chance to shine and tell people what they can find.
Yeah. So, bread-wise, we do sourdoughs. They're true sourdoughs made with local flour, right out of Gianforte Farms in Cazenovia. We use local salts. But yeah, we do Italian breads, salted baguettes. We do bagels and English muffins on the weekends, rosemary focaccias.
You'll do special breads a lot, like you did what's the one that you made?
Well, this one had Hobie honey on it, so it was really special. Wonderful. We did a honey wheat baguette. That was pretty good. Sesame braids.
Yeah.
Butter rolls.
We do Kimmelweck rolls. We do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Golly, that is wonderful. You got to be the only ones around.
Oh.
I don't know too many. Other than Columbus. I'll go down to Columbus and get
it. Sourdough.
But no, and their Italian bread.
They're very good.
Although very good.
Yeah.
And I do love my Columbus bread. However, they're Greek. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not really Italian, is it?
I think at one point it was.
At one point it was. But your Italian bread, it's coming from an Italian guy.
That's true.
I can't explain the French baguette.
Right, yeah, that's a little sort of Frenchy. Now, do you have an actual place where people can come to get the bread? Where's that?
Yeah, so the address is 8240 Casanova Road, and that's in Manly. It's Route 92, right across the street from
Stingers.
Stingers, True Value. There's a little plaza. There's Gabrielle's Chocolates, which is wonderful.
Yeah. So are you that far away from our friend there at Cafe Kubal? He's got that place, over there.
So just a little further down on 92, right through the village on the other side of Seneca Street.
You got to make a left when you get to the... you should go up to the light and make a left.
Yes, make a left and then veer to the right.
Yeah.
I see how that goes.
Definitely worth the trip to go out and
trying to figure out what direction you were coming from.
All right. And you can also go on saltcitybread.com, saltcitybread.com. That's Chris and Andrea DeVita, owners of Salt City Bread. Thank you both for coming. Now you've been indoctrined into this whole thing. You can come back again and you'll be pros, okay?
Thank you so much.
Awesome. That's going to wrap up the local show. Bob, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This has been a blast. I appreciate it.
I'd like to have you here all the time. I'll talk to Steve about it. On behalf of the local show, Zoey Advertising, and Tom and Bob, God bless you and your families. Try and get some vigorous activity every day and help people who are less fortunate than you. I think that's important too. And the local show is heard every Saturday morning from 11 to 1, then again on Sunday morning from 7 to 9. Listen together with a friend. It's more fun that way. Until next week, get down to business and keep doing business locally. Tell your friends about the local show right here on 570 WSYR 106.9 FM and the iHeartRadio app, along with YouTube at Zoey Advertising 3809.